Every war begins with a lie, and the lie at the heart of Sudan's conflict is this: that it's local, that it's tribal, that it's somehow inevitable. It isn't. It's engineered. Sudan's tragedy is not born out of chaos, it's constructed out of order. An order that benefits the few, inside and outside its borders. An order built on the world's hunger for wealth drawn from other people's suffering. The war in Sudan is a mirror. It reflects how our world works when power goes unchecked, when resources outweigh lives, and when the global economy rewards collapse more than it rewards peace. To understand why Sudan burns, we must first understand what keeps the fire alive and who keeps stoking it. Sudan was never given a chance to be whole. Long before it was a nation, it was a colony, ruled jointly by Britain and Egypt from 1899 to 1956. That so-called condominium wasn't a partnership. It was a power arrangement that drew arbitrary borders and played ethnic groups against one another. The British invested in the north, in cities like Khartoum and Omdurman, while the south was left isolated, underdeveloped, cut off even from education and infrastructure. The seeds of division were planted in classrooms and laws, not battlefields. When independence finally came in 1956, Sudan inherited more ghosts than gifts. As historian Douglas Johnson once wrote, Sudan was handed independence without unity, wealth without distribution, and power without restraint. Almost immediately, civil war erupted between North and South. The First Sudanese Civil War lasted 17 years. The second, more brutal still, lasted 22. Together, they killed more than 2 million people. The global community called it an internal conflict. But from the start, it was fueled by external interests, from Cold War alliances to oil speculation. Every foreign hand that claimed to help left fingerprints on Sudan's instability. By the time the guns fell silent in 2005, the country was exhausted, but not at peace. The institutions were hollow, the elites richer, the people poorer. And the military, the only real constant, had learned that power in Sudan flows not through ballots, but through barrels. When oil was discovered in the late 1990s, Sudan should have been transformed. Instead, it was consumed. Oil became the backbone of the regime led by Omar al-Bashir, a dictator who ruled for 30 years through a mix of fear, patronage, and repression. Under his watch, revenues poured into Khartoum while the peripheries withered. According to the UN Refugee Agency and Human Rights Watch, the oil boom deepened inequalities and accelerated conflict. Villages in the south were razed to make way for oil fields. Millions were displaced. The profits went to the military, the security services, and foreign partners, not the people. By the early 2000s, Sudan was pumping over 500,000 barrels a day. China became its largest customer. Beijing built pipelines and refineries in exchange for access. Russia sold weapons. Western governments imposed sanctions but continued to buy crude through intermediaries. Oil had become the state's oxygen, and its poison. When South Sudan seceded in 2011, taking roughly 75% of that oil wealth, Khartoum was left gasping. The question wasn't just how to replace the revenue, it was how to keep the elite economy, the war economy, alive. Gold. Sudan's deserts are laced with gold, nearly 100 tons produced every year, according to Reuters and the Wilson Center. But where there is gold, there is blood. The government turned to artisanal mining to plug its financial holes, allowing powerful families, foreign investors, and militias to seize control of mines. The most notorious among them, the Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, evolved from the Janjaweed militias responsible for atrocities in Darfur. Their commander, Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, better known as Hemedti, built an empire from gold. His family's company Al Junaid controls key concessions. The RSF exports gold through Dubai, where it disappears into the international market, reappearing as jewelry, bullion, and reserve wealth in banks far from Khartoum. As Bloomberg and The Guardian have reported, as much as 70% of Sudan's gold is smuggled abroad, often through the UAE. Some finds its way to Russia, where the Wagner Group helps transport and launder it. Each bar of gold buys more guns. Each shipment prolongs the war. Meanwhile, in the mining villages of Darfur and Kordofan, child labor is common. Mercury poisons rivers. The land itself screams under the weight of greed. Sudan's gold rush is not just an economic story. It's the spine of a global black market that connects African deserts to European vaults. Every gram is a transaction between suffering and silence. To the outside world, Sudan's war might look like a local power struggle between the army and the RSF. But beneath that, it's a proxy war, a contest of influence stretching from Cairo to Moscow, from Riyadh to Washington. Egypt backs the national army, led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. For Cairo, a stable military government ensures control over the Nile, the lifeline that Egypt cannot live without. The UAE and Saudi Arabia, meanwhile, play a more complex game, investing heavily in Sudan's ports and agricultural lands while also cultivating ties with Hemedti and the RSF. Russia's Wagner Group entered the picture through gold. According to The Guardian and BBC investigations, Wagner has traded weapons and training for access to mines, smuggling millions of dollars worth of bullion through Port Sudan and onward to Moscow, an economic lifeline as Western sanctions tighten over Ukraine. The United States and European Union, for their part, preach democracy while prioritizing migration control. They fear another refugee wave, another Libya-style collapse, so they tread carefully, issuing statements but stopping short of meaningful action. Sudan has become a stage where regional and global powers perform their interests while the country itself collapses beneath them. This is the third truth of Sudan's conflict. When war erupted in April 2023 between Burhan's army and Hemedti's RSF, it wasn't just a battle for power, it was a battle for assets, for ports, gold, airports, and trade routes. According to the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, more than 9 million people have been displaced since then. Whole neighborhoods in Khartoum have turned to ash. In Darfur, ethnic massacres have resumed. And yet, the world watches with a strange detachment. Because for many governments, Sudan's suffering is secondary to Sudan's strategic location, its Red Sea coastline, its access to the Sahel, its potential for logistics, pipelines, and military bases. The Red Sea is one of the world's busiest shipping corridors. Control over Port Sudan offers access to global trade worth billions. Russia has long sought a naval base there. The UAE eyes it as a hub for exports. China sees it as a node in its Belt and Road Initiative. Each interest comes wrapped in the same rhetoric: development, stability, partnership. But development built on extraction is just empire in a new suit. Even the humanitarian crisis becomes transactional. Aid agencies bound by donor politics are forced to navigate warlords for access. Convoys are taxed, delayed, sometimes looted outright. Every bag of flour, every box of medicine becomes a token of power. Sudan is bleeding not just from bullets, but from bureaucracy. Beyond soldiers and borders, another force has joined the fight: the earth itself. Sudan lies at the edge of the Sahara, where climate change has become impossible to ignore. The UN Environment Programme ranks it among the most climate-vulnerable countries on the planet. Rains come late, if at all. When they do, they flood entire towns. Crops fail, cattle die, people move. And when people move, lines are redrawn. Desertification pushes pastoralists into farmlands, sparking conflict between herders and farmers. What begins as a dispute over water or grazing rights quickly escalates into violence when weapons are plentiful and governance absent. Climate change doesn't cause wars, but it magnifies every injustice already there. In Sudan, it has turned scarcity into strategy and survival into competition. The tragedy is global, because while the industrial world debates carbon markets and green transitions, countries like Sudan pay the price up front in floods, famine, and war. The environmental crisis and the conflict are not parallel stories. They are the same story told in two languages, one of fire, one of dust. Wars end when they become unprofitable. But in Sudan, war is the business. Generals and militia leaders control vast commercial empires in construction, telecommunications, and agriculture. Foreign companies sign deals with them because there's no functioning state to say no. According to Transparency International, Sudan's shadow economy could represent nearly half its GDP. Weapons are purchased through gold revenues, fuel is smuggled through Chad and Libya, cash moves through Dubai. It's a network that thrives on chaos, and one that many outside actors quietly tolerate because it serves their interests. The Council on Foreign Relations calls it a self-sustaining war economy. And that phrase captures Sudan perfectly. A conflict that no longer needs ideology to survive, only incentive. Even humanitarian aid can become part of the system. Corruption siphons off food meant for refugees. Local power brokers use relief as leverage. Every sack of grain becomes another bargaining chip in the politics of starvation. When survival itself becomes transactional, peace is almost impossible. The world often asks, why can't Sudan just find peace? But peace is not found, it's built. And building requires time, attention, and investment. Three things Sudan rarely receives. Media coverage is sporadic, diplomacy is cautious. As Al Jazeera and The Guardian have both noted, Sudan's crisis ranks among the world's worst, yet remains among the least visible. Why? Because there are no Western soldiers dying here. No oil embargo threatening global markets. No viral footage that forces outrage. The world doesn't ignore Sudan because it's complicated. It ignores Sudan because it's inconvenient. And yet, every moment of silence strengthens the war's architects. Every time a news cycle moves on, a smuggler profits. Every time a government delays, a child starves. This is the fourth truth of Sudan's conflict. Indifference is participation. Despite everything, Sudan is not beyond repair. It has survived colonization, partition, famine, and dictatorship. It can survive this, but only if the world finally learns to see it not as a charity case, but as a partner in justice. First, there must be accountability. War crimes in Darfur and Khartoum must be investigated, not ignored. The International Criminal Court still has outstanding warrants for figures within the old regime. They must be enforced. Second, economic transparency. Every gold export should be traceable from mine to market. As the International Crisis Group argues, cutting off illicit trade is the fastest way to starve the conflict. That requires cooperation from Dubai, from Russia, from all who profit from shadow markets. Third, civil rebuilding. True peace cannot be imposed by generals or foreign envoys. It must be led by Sudanese civilians, the doctors, activists, and community leaders who already risk their lives to keep society intact. And finally, a shift in global conscience. Because the deeper problem isn't only Sudan's governance, it's the world's moral economy. The belief that cheap resources justify distant suffering. As long as that logic stands, Sudan will not be the last. In the camps along the border, hope is measured in small things. A loaf of bread, a working radio, a phone call from a relative still alive. Teachers run lessons under trees. Mothers form neighborhood councils to distribute what little aid arrives. Doctors build clinics from scraps, powered by car batteries and courage. In their quiet defiance lies Sudan's greatest resource, its people. Their resilience exposes the lie that this war is endless. Nothing built on greed lasts forever. One day, the world will have to answer a question Sudan keeps asking: what is the value of a human life when measured against gold? The Sudanese conflict is not a tragedy that happened to the world. It is a product of it. A system that extracts, exploits, and excuses. A system that praises democracy but funds dictators. A system that speaks of peace while trading in pain. But mirrors are not meant only for horror. They're meant for recognition. And if Sudan's suffering can force the world to see itself, to see the price of its consumption, the weight of its silence, then perhaps some good can still rise from the ruins. When the dust finally settles over Khartoum, when the rivers run quiet again, the world will say the war was tragic, but inevitable. It wasn't. It was profitable. And it will happen again, somewhere else, unless we learn. The story of Sudan is the story of the modern world, where resources are worth more than people, and silence costs less than truth. But it doesn't have to end that way. The people of Sudan have not given up. And as long as they fight for life, for dignity, for the right to exist beyond the shadow of empire, hope is not lost, because justice, like gold, lies buried. And sometimes the hardest battles are fought simply to dig it out.